A German shepherd stood in front of an empty school bus and refused to let the Navy SEAL open the door. The bus had no driver, no children in the seats, no engine running, but the dog would not move. Retired Navy SEAL Owen Riker thought she was guarding food, trash, or maybe a hidden litter of puppies. Then he stepped closer. The German shepherd growled at him, turned toward the locked bus door, and scratched at it until her paw bled. That was when Owen heard it. A small cry from somewhere inside the bus. Not a dog. A child. Owen froze with one hand on the cold yellow door frame, his breath fogging in the morning air. The old school bus sat behind the closed rural bus depot, half hidden by weeds, its windows filmed with dust, its tires sunk slightly into mud. Everyone in Millstone County had driven past it for months without looking twice. But the German shepherd had not. She stood between Owen and the bus like she had been placed there by a promise. Thin, muddy, exhausted, still guarding. Owen looked through the cloudy glass and saw only empty seats. Then the cry came again, fainter, lower, from somewhere beneath the aisle. The German shepherd looked at him with desperate amber eyes. Stay with this story because by the end you may believe that sometimes a dog does not guard a door because she wants to keep people out. Sometimes she guards it because everyone inside has been waiting too long for someone to come in. Owen Riker first noticed the bus because it was in the wrong place. That was how his mind worked even after retirement. Wrong things pulled at him. A gate left open. A tire track where no vehicle should be. A curtain moving in a house that was supposed to be empty. A yellow school bus parked behind a bus depot that had been closed since the district merged routes the previous spring. Most people in Millstone drove past the old depot without seeing it anymore. Owen saw it every morning on his way to the feed store, the same faded building, the same rusted fence, the same cracked sign that still read County Transportation Office even though no office lights had been on there in months. But that morning there was a German shepherd in front of the bus. She stood squarely at the folded door, blocking it with her body. Owen slowed his truck. The road was quiet. A frost lay over the grass. The early sun turned the old bus windows pale gold, but the yard around it still looked abandoned and cold. The German shepherd did not look at Owen's truck. She looked at the bus door, then she scratched at it. Once, twice, again. Owen pulled into the gravel lot. The tires crunched loudly enough that a crow lifted from the depot roof and flew toward the trees. The dog turned. Her coat was black and tan under the mud. Her ears were tall, one slightly bent at the tip. There was no collar, no tag. Her ribs showed when she breathed. One front paw was raw from scratching. Owen parked and stepped out. Easy. The German shepherd lowered her head and growled, not wild, not savage, controlled, a warning with discipline behind it. Owen stopped. He understood disciplined warnings. He had spent most of his life around men who could say more with one glance than others said with speeches. This dog was saying one thing: do not come closer unless you are here to help. Owen lifted his hands. I'm not here to hurt you. The dog held her ground. Owen had been a Navy SEAL for 24 years. People liked hearing that. They imagined action, courage, clean purpose. They did not imagine what came after. What came after for Owen was irritation, not sadness exactly, not fear, impatience. In the teams, delay had meaning. Delay was tactical, wait for weather, wait for command, wait for extraction. In civilian life, delay often meant forms, voicemails, closed offices, people saying next week while something obvious got worse right in front of them. Retirement had made Owen feel powerless in a way combat never had. Danger he understood, slow neglect made him furious. Maybe that was why he did not drive away. The German shepherd turned back to the bus and scratched again. A red smear appeared on the yellow paint. Blood from her paw. Owen's jaw tightened. How long have you been at this? The dog ignored the question. Owen took one slow step toward the bus. She growled. He stopped. Fair. He crouched and looked at the door from a distance. The bus was one of the older models, flat front, folding doors, emergency exit at the back. A chain ran through the front handles and connected to a padlock. That was odd. Abandoned buses had locks, yes, but this chain was newer than the rust around it. The metal still shone under dirt. Owen stood and circled slowly toward the side. The dog moved with him, keeping herself between him and the door. Not attacking. Guarding, through the windows, Owen saw rows of empty seats, torn brown vinyl, a cracked mirror above the driver's seat, a faded evacuation diagram near the front, dust everywhere, no backpack, no visible child, no movement. Nothing in there, he said. The German shepherd barked once, sharp, angry. Then she pressed her nose to the lower crack of the door and whined. Owen stepped closer. This time the dog did not growl. She watched his hands. He leaned toward the door. For a moment he heard only whine through the chain-link fence and the distant hum of a truck on the highway. Then came the cry, small, muffled, human. Owen's body went cold. Hello? Silence. He pressed his ear closer. Can you hear me? The cry came again, weaker, then a tiny voice. Scout. The German shepherd went rigid. Her name was Scout. The dog shoved her nose toward the door and cried. Owen pulled out his phone. No service, of course. The depot sat in a low patch between two ridges, and the county had been promising better coverage for years. He walked 10 steps toward the road. One bar appeared. He called Sheriff Lena Ortiz. The call rang twice, then cut out. He tried again. Nothing. The German shepherd barked at the bus. Owen looked at the chain. He had bolt cutters in the truck. In theory, he should wait for law enforcement. In theory, he should secure the scene, avoid damaging county property, keep distance, and follow procedure. A child was crying inside a locked bus. Theory could wait in line. He went to the truck, grabbed bolt cutters, a flashlight, gloves, and an emergency blanket. Scout followed halfway, then returned to the bus door and stood trembling. Owen placed the cutters around the chain. The first squeeze did not break it. The second bit deep. The third snapped the link. The chain fell against the bus step with a metallic slap. Scout shoved forward. Owen caught her chest gently. Not first. She fought him. He held firm. I know, but not first. The dog shook with rage and fear, then stilled just enough to let him open the folding door. The old bus air rolled out, stale vinyl, dust, mold, cold metal, and underneath it something sour and damp. Owen climbed the first step with flashlight raised. Anyone in here? The voice answered from inside the bus. Down here. Owen moved down the aisle. Scout climbed in behind him, claws clicking on the rubber floor. She passed him at the third row and went straight toward the rear. Owen followed. The seats looked empty. But near the middle of the aisle, a rectangular floor panel sat slightly raised. Maintenance access, battery compartment or heater duct space. The latch had been taped over, then partly scratched away. Scout pawed at it, whining. Owen knelt. Are you under this? Yes. A child's voice, close now, terrified. He pulled at the panel. It did not move. Something had jammed it from above or below. He slid his knife under the edge and cut the remaining tape. Then he used the pry bar from his belt kit, working slowly so the panel would not drop onto whoever was below. Scout pressed her nose near the seam. Back, Owen said. She did not. Scout, back. The dog looked at him, then slowly she stepped away. The panel lifted with a groan. A cold, dark space opened beneath the aisle. Inside, curled beside a small puppy wrapped in a dirty sweatshirt, was a little boy. 7 years old, maybe 8. Brown hair, blue lips. One cheek scratched. His eyes were too big for his face. He looked up at Owen and whispered, You found Scout. Owen lowered his flashlight. Scout found me. The boy tried to smile, then he shivered so hard his teeth clicked. Owen reached down carefully. What's your name? Eli? Eli what? Eli Mercer. How long have you been in there? The boy blinked slowly. Since dark. Scout tried to climb down into the compartment. Owen blocked her. Hold on, Eli, are you stuck? My foot. Owen angled the light. The child's right shoe was wedged beneath a bent metal bracket connected to the floor support. Not crushed, pinned, the puppy beside him whimpered. Scout answered with a low sound that made Eli cry. She came back. Owen looked at the dog. You left him to get help. Scout's eyes stayed on the boy. Owen set the emergency blanket in the opening. Eli, I'm going to get you warm and free your foot, then we're getting you out. Don't leave Scout. I won't. And Button. The puppy? Eli nodded. Button 2. Button 2. Owen climbed back out and called again from the bus doorway. This time the call to Sheriff Ortiz connected long enough. Lena, Old Bus Depot. Child trapped in bus floor compartment. Need EMS, fire, child services, animal care, possible criminal lock-in. The sheriff's voice snapped through static. Say again. The call cut. Owen looked at the phone. Good enough. He went back to Eli. Scout stood over the open panel like a guard at a rescue hatch. Owen worked the brackets slowly. He had to remove 2 rusted bolts and bend the edge back without jerking the child's ankle. Eli cried once, then tried to apologize. Owen stopped working for half a second. Do not apologize for pain. The boy looked at him. Sorry. Owen gave him a look. Eli almost smiled. Scout lowered her muzzle into the compartment and licked the boy's forehead. The puppy Button wriggled against Eli's chest. Owen finally freed the shoe. The boy gasped. Foot still attached. Eli nodded, crying now. That's a good start. Owen wrapped the puppy in the sweatshirt and passed it up first. Scout touched the puppy with her nose, then looked back at Eli. Owen lifted the child carefully from the compartment. Eli weighed too little. That was the first thing Owen noticed. The second was the smell of old fear in his clothes, not just one night on a bus. Longer trouble. He carried Eli to the front steps, wrapped him in the blanket, and sat him in the patch of sunlight near the windshield where the cold glass had warmed slightly. Scout climbed onto the step and pressed against the boy. Owen gave Eli a protein bar in tiny pieces and water in careful sips. No full food yet. No rushing. The boy kept one hand on Scout's fur. What happened? Eli looked toward the depot building. Owen followed his gaze. The old office windows were dark. Eli, the boy swallowed. Mr. Carver said Scout was stealing. Who is Mr. Carver? The bus man. Owen knew the name. Wade Carver had been the county transportation supervisor before the depot closed. He still handled leftover equipment, old fuel records, auction prep, and storage contracts. A man with a smooth voice, clean boots, and a habit of saying rules are rules while avoiding the people hurt by them. Owen kept his face still. Stealing what? Food. For Button, Eli nodded. And other dogs. Other dogs, Owen looked at Scout. The German shepherd's ribs showed because she had not been feeding herself first. Of course. What did Mr. Carver do? Eli's lips trembled. He locked the bus. With you inside, I hid first. Why? The boy looked down. Because he said he was taking Scout away. Before Owen could ask more, Scout stood and growled toward the yard. A white pickup rolled through the depot gate, county seal on the door, driver side mirror cracked. Wade Carver stepped out wearing a brown jacket, work gloves, and a face already arranging itself into outrage. He stopped when he saw the broken chain, the open bus door, Owen, the child, and Scout. For 1 second, his eyes went to the floor panel inside the bus. Then to Eli, then to the puppy, not surprise, calculation. Owen saw it. The old part of him took over completely. Carver called out, "What the hell are you doing on county property?" Owen stood between him and the bus steps. "Rescuing a child." Carver's mouth tightened. "What child?" Eli pulled the blanket higher. Scout growled. Owen stepped down into the lot. "This one." Carver walked closer, trying to look angry enough to control the scene. "That boy breaks into places. He's trouble. His mother has been warned." Owen did not move. "You knew him. Everybody knows Eli. He wanders. You knew he might be here." Carver looked toward the road. "Where's the sheriff?" "On her way." That changed the air. Carver glanced at the broken chain. "You destroyed county property. You locked a child in a bus. I locked an empty bus after hours. Then why did you look at the floor panel before you looked at him?" Carver's face hardened. Scout barked once loud enough that Eli flinched. Owen looked back. The boy was shaking harder, not cold now. Recognition, fear. Owen turned to Carver. "Stay where you are." Carver laughed once. "You giving orders now?" "Yes." It was not loud. It did not need to be. Carver stopped. Sirens sounded on the road. Sheriff Lena Ortiz arrived first, her cruiser sliding slightly on the frosty gravel. She stepped out with one hand on her belt and eyes moving over everything at once. "Owen. Child recovered from bus floor compartment. Mild hypothermia, possible ankle injury, possible neglect or unlawful confinement. Puppy recovered. German shepherd named Scout made contact and led me in." Ortiz looked at Carver. "Wade." He spread his hands. "Sheriff, this is not what it looks like." She looked at Eli, wrapped in a blanket on the bus steps with a German shepherd pressed against him. "Funny how often people say that when it looks exactly like something." EMS pulled in behind her. Fire rescue followed. Animal control arrived with crates. The quiet depot became a scene of controlled urgency. Eli refused to let go of Scout. Scout refused to let go of Eli. Button the puppy screamed whenever anyone moved him more than 2 feet from either of them. Owen stayed close, not because anyone asked him to, but because every time he stepped away, Eli's eyes followed. Sheriff Ortiz took Carver aside. He spoke with his hands, denied everything. Said the boy was a runaway, said the dog was dangerous, said the bus had been locked for safety, said abandoned property attracted trespassers, said procedure required securing vehicles. Owen heard pieces while paramedics worked on Eli. Every excuse sounded familiar, not from war, from civilian rooms where people used process as a blanket to cover something cold. The paramedic, a calm man named Lewis, checked Eli's temperature, pulse, ankle, and oxygen level. "He needs the hospital." Eli's grip tightened in Scout's fur. "No." Owen crouched in front of him. "Listen to me. You're going to the hospital because your body got too cold and your foot needs checking. They'll take Scout." Scout pressed closer. Owen looked at Ortiz. The sheriff spoke before he asked. "Scout rides in the ambulance bay with animal control following. I'll clear it." Lewis sighed. "That's not protocol." Ortiz looked at him. "Then enjoy the historic moment of protocol improving." Eli looked at Owen. "Promise." Owen hated promises made under pressure, but some had to be made anyway. "I promise Scout stays close." "And Button." "And Button." The boy nodded. Only then did he let them move him. As they lifted Eli onto the stretcher, Scout stepped between him and Carver. The German shepherd's head lowered. Her growl was quiet and final. Carver stepped back. Ortiz noticed. Owen noticed. Eli noticed too. "He tried to grab her," the boy whispered. Owen leaned close. "When?" "Last night, before I hid." Ortiz came over. "Eli, I need you to tell me that again when you're warm, okay?" The boy looked at Scout. She bit his glove and ran. "I hid in the bus because Button was there." Owen looked toward the bus. "Button was already inside." Eli nodded. "There are more." The whole scene paused. Ortiz turned. "More what?" "Puppies." Scout barked toward the depot building, not the bus, the building. Owen looked at Carver. Carver's face went gray. Ortiz saw it too. "Wade, sit down." "I have work." "Sit down." This time, 2 deputies helped him understand. Scout pulled toward the depot office. Her raw paw left small marks on the frost. Owen looked at Ortiz. She's not done. The sheriff looked from the German Shepherd to the dark office windows. Of course she is. The depot office smelled like old paper, diesel, and damp carpet. Scout entered first, nose low, despite the animal control officer protesting that she needed treatment. Owen followed with Sheriff Ortiz, a deputy, and the fire chief. The building had been abandoned in the lazy way government properties often were. Filing cabinets still in corners. Route maps still pinned to cork boards. A calendar from 8 months earlier still open to March. A coffee mug dried brown inside. Scout moved past the front desk and stopped at a locked interior door marked PARTS storage. She scratched once. Then looked at Owen. He looked at Ortiz. Key, Ortiz called toward the yard. Ask Carver. The deputy returned a minute later with a key ring. He says there's nothing inside but parts. Scout growled. Owen took the ring, tried 3 keys, and opened the door. The smell hit immediately. Urine, wet cardboard, old dog food, fear. Inside the storage room, beneath metal shelves and behind stacked bus seat cushions, were 5 puppies in a cardboard box and 1 old mixed-breed dog curled around them. The old dog lifted her head and showed cloudy eyes. Scout pushed past Owen and went straight to them. She touched each puppy with her nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then button outside made 6. Owen understood why Scout had been thin. She had been feeding a hidden litter and an old dog, not herself. The animal control officer whispered, "Good Lord." On the floor beside the box were torn food bags, empty cans, and a child's backpack. Eli's name was written on the strap in black marker. Owen picked it up carefully with gloved hands. Inside were crackers, a small flashlight, a notebook, and a folded bus route map. The notebook belonged to Eli. Most pages were filled with drawings of buses, dogs, and a woman with long hair labeled Mom sleeping. 1 page listed names: Scout, Button, Marble, June, Tiny, Rocket, Old Me. Another page read, Mr. Carver says dogs don't belong here, but they were here before the buses left. Scout knows where the food is. She only takes what they threw away. Ortiz read over Owen's shoulder. Her jaw tightened. Thrown away food. The animal control officer held up a stack of donation bags hidden under a tarp. Not thrown away. These are unopened. Ortiz's eyes moved to the wall. There was a clipboard hanging on a nail. Donation inventory, shelter transfer supplies, signed out by Wade Carver. Never delivered. Owen looked back toward the yard where Carver sat between deputies. What was he doing with donated animal supplies? Good question, Ortiz said. Scout suddenly barked toward the back of the room. The old dog lifted her head and whined. Owen moved aside a stack of seat cushions. Behind them was a narrow service hatch near the floor. It was secured with a sliding bolt. Fresh scratches covered the wood, not from the outside, from inside. Owen crouched. Lena! The sheriff was already beside him. Open it! He slid the bolt back. The hatch stuck, then gave way. Cold air moved through the opening from a crawlspace beneath the office building. Scout tried to enter. Owen stopped her. Wait! From the darkness came a tiny sound, a mew, not a puppy, a kitten. Then another. The fire chief shone a light inside. The crawlspace was shallow, but there was a lower pocket under the building where animals had nested among insulation and old tarps. 2 kittens were visible. Something moved farther back. Scout whined urgently. The old dog in the box tried to stand and failed. Owen looked at the hatch, too small for him. Who fits? A firefighter named Nina Chen stepped forward. I do. They tied a line to her, gave her a mask, gloves, and a crate. Nina crawled in slowly. Scout lay at the hatch, nose nearly touching the floor. Owen stayed beside the dog, 1 hand on her shoulder. The first kitten came out, then the second. Then Nina's voice echoed from beneath the building. There's another child's jacket down here. Ortiz went still. Owen felt Scout's body tense. Nina passed the jacket out. Small, blue, torn sleeve, name written on the tag, Maya Torres. Ortiz swore under her breath. Maya Torres went missing 6 weeks ago. Owen looked at her. Missing? 15. Reported runaway from foster placement. Scout barked toward the crawlspace, not frantic, insistent. Nina called from under the building. I found a gap, tunnel toward the old wash bay. Someone was using this to sleep. Owen looked at Ortiz. The case had just changed again. Eli had not been the first child to hide near the depot. Scout had been guarding more than a bus. The German Shepherd had been guarding a place where forgotten children and abandoned animals had crossed paths because both had learned the same lesson. Empty buildings were sometimes safer than homes that did not listen. Ortiz stood and gave orders fast. Secure Carver. Search the wash bay. Get child services here now. Run Maya Torres again. Call state police if needed. Owen listened, but his eyes stayed on Scout. The dog had lowered her head to the floor. Her body trembled with exhaustion. She had found 1 child, 6 puppies, an old dog, kittens, a hidden crawlspace, and a clue to a missing teenager. Still, her eyes stayed open. Still counting, still waiting, Owen crouched. "Who else, girl?" Scout looked toward the wash bay door, then she stood again. The old wash bay sat behind the depot, separated from the office by a narrow breezeway and a rusted roll-up door. The door had been chained shut from the outside, not with an old chain, a new one. Owen saw it before anyone said anything. Sheriff Ortiz did too. Carver had claimed everything was secured for safety. Too many things around this depot were secured from the wrong side. Nina, the firefighter, was still checking the crawlspace line from inside when Scout led Owen to the roll-up door. The German shepherd's limp had worsened. Her scratched paw left faint red marks on the concrete. Animal Control Officer Harper tried to slip a leash over her. Scout dodged him and pressed her body against the door. Owen raised a hand. "Let her show us." Harper looked frustrated. "She's going to collapse." "Then we listen faster." Ortiz nodded to the deputy with bolt cutters. The chain snapped. The roll-up door rose with a scream of rust and metal. Inside, the wash bay was dim and cold. Old hoses hung from the wall. A broken pressure washer sat in the corner. The concrete floor sloped toward a central drain clogged with leaves. Along the back wall, someone had built a makeshift sleeping space from bus seat cushions, cardboard, and moving blankets. There were food wrappers, water bottles, a small battery lantern, and a stack of library books wrapped in a plastic bag. Scout went straight to the blankets and sniffed. Then she barked once. No answer. Ortiz stepped inside carefully. "Maya," silence. Owen walked the perimeter. A side door led outside to the tree line. The lock was broken. Snowy mud marked the threshold. Not fresh from that morning, maybe from the night before. Scout followed the scent to the door and whined. Owen looked beyond the wash bay. Behind the depot, a narrow service road ran into a patch of woods that bordered the creek. If a teenager had run when Carver arrived, she could have gone that way. If she was injured, cold, or hiding, the weather could kill her by night. Ortiz called in the update. Possible missing juvenile alive recently at depot. Search expanding to woods and creek corridor. Owen looked at the sleeping space. On top of one folded blanket was a page torn from Eli's notebook. The writing was older, sharper, from someone older than Eli. Carver sells food meant for animals. He yells at Eli. Scout bites if he gets too close. "If I leave, I'm taking the little ones. If I can't, Scout will know." Ortiz read it and closed her eyes briefly. "Maya!" Scout barked toward the tree line. Owen picked up the plastic-wrapped books. One was a library copy of The Secret Garden. A receipt inside showed it had been checked out 2 months earlier under the name Maya Tours. Owen looked at Ortiz. "She's out there." The sheriff nodded. "We search now." The search moved into the woods behind the depot. Eli had been transported to the hospital with Button, the puppy, tucked in a warming crate beside him. The remaining puppies and old me were on their way to the veterinary clinic. The kittens followed in another crate. Carver was being questioned in the back of a cruiser after deputies found donation records, missing supply logs, and messages from Maya on an old depot phone he claimed no longer worked. The official scene was expanding, but Scout cared about none of that. She pulled toward the woods with the last of her strength. Owen walked beside her, one hand near her shoulder but not holding her unless she stumbled. Sheriff Ortiz, Nina the firefighter, Deputy Lawson, and Harper followed. The tree line was wet and dark under the pines. Frost still clung to fallen leaves where sunlight had not reached. Scout moved slowly, nose to ground, then lifted her head toward the creek. Halfway down the service path, she stopped at a torn strip of blue fabric snagged on a branch, same color as Maya's jacket. Owen held it for Ortiz to bag. Scout moved again. The creek ran shallow but fast after recent rain. A narrow footbridge crossed near the old water pump station. Beyond it was a maintenance shed with a collapsed roof. Scout stopped before the bridge and growled. Owen looked at the boards, rot, one plank freshly broken, a smear of mud on the rail. Someone had crossed or tried. "Maya," Ortiz called, no answer. Scout stepped onto the bridge. Owen caught her harnessless chest. "No," she fought weakly. He held firm. "Not this time." Nina moved forward with a rope. "I can cross lower." Owen studied the creek. There was a shallow section near fallen rocks. "Safer there." Ortiz agreed. They crossed downstream and approached the pump station shed from the side. Scout was carried over by Owen despite her offended growl. "You can file a complaint later," he muttered. On the far side, Scout immediately pulled toward the shed. The door hung open. Inside, under a sheet of corrugated metal that had fallen from the roof, lay a teenage girl, Maya Tours, alive, barely conscious. One ankle twisted badly, arms wrapped around a small mixed-breed dog with a white muzzle. Dog lifted its head and gave one weak wag when Scout entered. Maya blinked at the German shepherd. "Scout!" Scout went to her and pressed her nose against the girl's cheek. Maya began to cry without sound. Owen knelt beside her. "My name is Owen. We're getting you out." Maya's lips moved. "Eli, alive, hospital. The puppies, safe. Old me." Safe. Maya closed her eyes. The relief seemed to hurt. Ortiz crouched. Maya, can you tell me what happened? The girl swallowed. Carver came last night. Said he found my stuff. Said he'd call police and say I broke in. I ran. Bridge broke. Why didn't you go to the road? Maya looked away. People send you back. That sentence silenced everyone in the shed, not because it was surprising, because every adult there understood it was probably true enough from her point of view. Owen checked her hands, cold, fingers stiff, possible hypothermia. Nina called for the rescue basket. Scout lay down beside Maya, finally unable to stand longer. Harper moved in with a blanket and wrapped the German shepherd gently. This time, Scout did not resist. Maybe because Maya was found, maybe because Eli was safe, maybe because the count was finally complete. As they carried Maya out, she reached for Scout. Owen lifted the dog carefully and walked beside the stretcher. The little mixed-breed dog, later identified as Pocket, was carried by Nina in her jacket. At the creek, Ortiz looked at Owen. "You all right?" He almost snapped. Of course he was all right. That had been his answer for years. All right meant functional. All right meant do not ask. All right meant the mission continues. But Scout's head rested against his arm, too tired to lift. Maya lay on the stretcher. Eli was on his way to the hospital. Carver was in custody. The depot was full of evidence of every ignored warning. Owen said no. Ortiz looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Good, no is honest. The hospital made room for everyone in stages. Eli went to pediatrics for hypothermia and a sprained ankle. Maya went to emergency care for exposure, dehydration, and a fractured ankle. Scout went to the veterinary clinic, then immediately refused to stay there after hearing Eli's voice through the adjoining rural health corridor. By evening, the German shepherd lay on a blanket between Eli's room and the hallway, positioned so she could see Maya's door too. Button slept in a warming crate near Eli. Pocket rested with Maya. Old Me and the other puppies remained at Dr. Marr's clinic. The kittens were taken by a volunteer who kept saying she was not adopting them while already naming them. Owen sat in the hallway because no one had told him where else to go. He had mud on his jeans, blood from Scout's paw on his sleeve, and a headache from holding back too much anger for too many hours. Sheriff Ortiz came out of Maya's room and sat beside him. Carver is talking. Good. Not from conscience, from fear. Still talks. She handed him a paper cup of hospital coffee. It tasted like punishment. He was skimming donated animal supplies after the depot closed, selling some, hoarding some, using the old buses and storage rooms to hide inventory. Owen looked toward Eli's door. And the kids? Eli found the dogs first. He was bringing food when he could. Maya found Eli here weeks ago. She had been staying near the depot on and off after running from a foster placement she says was unsafe. Was it? Ortiz's mouth tightened. Being investigated. Carver knew. He knew enough, threatened to report them for trespassing if they told anyone about the supplies. Owen stared down at the coffee. Systems move slow. Ortiz looked at him. Yes, I hate slow. I know. He glanced at her. She gave him a tired smile. You hide it terribly. He did not smile back. Those kids were behind a locked door under a floor in a shed and everybody drove past. Including me, Ortiz said. That stopped him. She looked at Scout through the doorway. I came through this road twice last week, saw the depot, saw nothing. Owen said quietly. Scout saw. Yes. The German shepherd lifted her head as if hearing her name, then lowered it again. Eli's voice came from inside the room. Scout! Owen stood and stepped in. Eli looked smaller in the hospital bed than he had on the bus steps. Without the urgency, he was just a boy with a bruised face and tired eyes. Scout struggled to rise. Owen said, stay. To his surprise, she did. Eli smiled faintly. She listens to you. Barely. She only listens if she agrees. That sounds accurate. The boy touched Button's crate. Is Maya okay? She's being treated. She protected me when Carver yelled. I know. Scout protected both of us. I know that too. Eli looked at Owen carefully. Are they going to split everyone up? There it was, the question beneath every rescue. Not did we survive. What happens after? Owen had no easy answer. Eli had probably heard too many easy answers already. I don't know yet. The boy's face fell. Owen stepped closer. But I know Sheriff Ortiz is working. Maya's being heard, you are being heard, and Scout is not going anywhere tonight. Promise. Owen looked at the German shepherd. Scout's eyes were on him, as if she also wanted to hear what kind of man he was going to be after the doors opened. Yes, he said. I promise tonight. Eli seemed to understand the shape of that. Night was not forever, but tonight mattered. Later, Owen visited Maya. She was 15, thin in a way that made anger rise in him again, but her eyes were sharp. Pocket, the little dog, slept against her hip. I remember you, she said. Owen paused. From where? You fixed the library ramp last winter. You told some man not to park in the wheelchair spot. That sounds like me. You scared him. He improved. She almost smiled. Then she looked toward the hall. Eli okay? Yes. Scout. Guarding the whole floor. Maya's face softened. She does that. She found you. No, she found everyone. I just waited last. Owen looked at her. The sentence was too practiced. You should not have had to wait. Maya looked away. Kids in care wait, that's kind of the thing. He had no answer that would not sound thin, so he said nothing. That seemed to be better. By the next morning, the case had become county news. Not names, not details, but enough. German Shepherd finds 2 missing children at old bus depot. Retired Navy SEAL assists rescue. Owen hated the headline immediately. Scout found them. Owen assisted. That was the accurate version, but people liked human heroes better because dogs did not give interviews. Over the next week, the investigation widened. Carver was charged with theft, child endangerment, unlawful confinement, and obstruction after deputies found messages proving he knew children were sheltering near the depot. The county transportation office came under review. Child Services opened emergency inquiries into both Eli's and Maya's placements. Animal rescue groups took in Old Me, the puppies, Pocket Button, and the kittens, though Eli and Maya negotiated visitation rights with the seriousness of treaty diplomats. Scout became complicated. No legal owner, no microchip, a history with both children. A protective bite incident against Carver, which several people argued was not a bite incident but an early performance review. The county wanted a formal evaluation. The hospital wanted her gone after discharge. The vet wanted her resting. Eli wanted her. Maya wanted her. Scout wanted both. Owen wanted to stop wanting anything. That failed on the 4th day when he arrived at the clinic and found Scout refusing food unless Eli and Maya were both visible through the doorway. Dr. Marr looked at Owen over her glasses. This dog has made a custody chart in her head. Sounds like her. She needs a stable place. Owen felt the trap before she finished. No, I haven't asked. You asked with your eyebrows. She trusts you. She trusts people who open doors. Dr. Marr crossed her arms. Owen. He looked through the glass. Scout lay on a blanket, head up, eyes moving between Eli in a wheelchair and Maya on crutches during their supervised clinic visit. She doesn't need me. No, she needs someone who understands that her job is not over just because the emergency ended. That stayed with him, because maybe neither was his. That afternoon, Sheriff Ortiz and Child Services worker Miriam Dale met Owen in the hospital conference room. He disliked conference rooms. Too many chairs, too much waiting. Miriam explained the temporary plan. Eli would not return to the previous placement until investigation concluded. Maya would be moved from her unsafe foster situation. The county was seeking emergency homes that could support both children's connection to Scout and the rescued animals. Owen listened until the words became slow enough to hurt. How many homes? Miriam sighed. Likely separate at first. No, both women looked at him. He heard himself continue. No, they survived because they built a little unit when adults failed. You separate them immediately, you teach them survival costs them everything. Miriam's face softened. I agree emotionally. I don't care emotionally, agree operationally. Ortiz covered a brief smile with her hand. Miriam said, there are rules. Owen leaned back. There are always rules. Emergency kinship or fictive kin placement requires background checks, home inspection, training agreement, court approval. Do it. Miriam paused. Do what? He looked toward the window, jaw tight. Run me. Ortiz stopped smiling. Owen, temporary, emergency. Whatever language makes the machine move. Miriam studied him. You are offering to take both children? I'm offering a safe house until something better exists. And Scout. He gave her a look. Miriam wrote something down. And Scout. The next 48 hours were paperwork inspections, phone calls, background checks, and neighbors arriving with things he had not asked for. Beds, blankets, a slow cooker, dog bowls, puppy food, a second-hand desk, a stack of school supplies. A woman from church brought curtains and said children should not wake up to bare windows. Owen said he did not know how to hang curtains. She handed him a drill and told him not to insult her with cowardice. Sheriff Ortiz checked smoke detectors. Dr. Marr brought Scout's medicine. Miriam walked through his house making notes. Owen's home had always been tidy because no one lived there hard enough to make it messy. By the time they were done, it looked less tidy and more alive. Eli arrived first, holding Button's crate. Maya arrived an hour later with Pocket and a backpack. Scout arrived last, stepping out of Dr. Marr's van like a queen inspecting a new command post. She checked the front door, back door, hallway, kitchen, bedrooms, bathroom, basement stairs, and the space under the dining table. Then she placed herself in the hallway between Eli's room and Maya's room and lay down facing the front door. Maya looked at Owen. She approves, Eli said, mostly. Owen looked at Scout. She has notes. The first night was not easy. Rescue stories often end too early when everyone is alive. Real rescue continues after the sirens stop. Eli woke crying because he thought he was back under the bus floor. Maya sat outside her room because closed doors made her chest hurt. Scout paced between them until Owen finally placed 2 chairs in the hallway and sat there with a blanket over his shoulders like an underpaid guard. Maya looked at him from her doorway. You don't have to stay awake. I know. Then why are you? He looked at Scout. Because she is. That answer seemed acceptable. By morning, all four of them were asleep in the hallway. Owen woke with a stiff neck, Scout's head on his boot, Button snoring in Eli's lap, and Maya wrapped in the church lady's curtain fabric because nobody had actually hung it yet. For the first time in years, Owen's house was not quiet. It was inconvenient, messy, emotionally dangerous, full of people needing breakfast. And somehow it felt less like an interruption than an assignment. Weeks passed. The old bus depot was transformed slowly, not by a miracle, by pressure. Sheriff Ortiz pushed the investigation. Miriam pushed the court. Dr. Marr pushed the animal rescue network. Owen pushed anyone who moved too slowly. The county eventually approved converting part of the depot into a supervised youth and animal outreach center. Maya suggested the name Scout Stop. Eli wanted Bus Dog's headquarters. Compromise was Scout House. Owen pretended not to care. He built the sign anyway. The old school bus remained in the yard for a while, sealed but no longer ignored. Investigators finished with it, and the county planned to scrap it. Eli asked if they could keep one seat. Maya asked for the rearview mirror. Owen asked why. Eli said, so we remember we got out. Maya said, so we remember to look behind us but not live there. Owen removed one seat and the mirror without asking further questions. The seat went into Scout House, repaired and cleaned with a plaque that read 4 waiting children and tired dogs. The mirror hung near the entrance, angled so anyone coming in could see the door behind them. Maya said it helped. Eli said it made Scout look heroic from all angles. Scout ignored both claims and slept beneath it. Eli and Maya did not heal quickly. No one who mattered expected them to. There were court dates, therapy appointments, school meetings, nightmares, arguments about food, arguments about doors, arguments about whether Button was allowed on beds, and one memorable incident where Pocket stole Sheriff Ortiz's breakfast sandwich during a home visit. Scout remained the center. She woke Eli when panic trapped his breathing. She leaned against Maya when silence pulled her too far inward. She growled at the washing machine until Owen moved it away from the hallway because apparently it sounded too much like the bus door closing. She learned that food came every morning and still checked both bowls before eating. Old habits did not vanish just because safety arrived. One Saturday, after a long day repairing kennels at Scout House, Owen found Maya sitting in the old bus seat with Eli beside her and Scout at their feet. The winter sun came through the depot windows. Dust floated in the light. Place smelled of fresh paint and dog shampoo now instead of fear. Maya looked at Owen. Do you miss being who you were? The question surprised him. Navy, she nodded. He thought about giving a simple answer, then remembered simple answers had not saved anyone at the depot. Sometimes I miss knowing exactly what I was for. Eli leaned against the bus seat. Do you know now? Owen looked at Scout. The German shepherd opened one eye. He looked at the children, then at the rebuilt room. I'm starting to. Maya smiled faintly. That's not a yes. It's an honest maybe. She accepted that. Months later, the court made the emergency placement longer, then longer again. Eventually, after hearings, testimony, reviews, and more paperwork than any mission briefing Owen had ever seen, the arrangement became permanent guardianship. Maya pretended not to care until she cried in the courthouse bathroom. Eli asked if Button could sign. Scout sat beside Owen during the judge's final statement and rested her head on his knee as if she had supervised the whole legal system into competence. Afterward, they went to Scout House instead of a restaurant because both children wanted to tell Old Me and the puppies. Old Me had been adopted by the fire station and now moved through life with the dignity of a retired general. The puppies had homes. Button remained with Eli. Pocket remained with Maya. The kittens, despite the volunteers' firm claims, remained with the volunteer. The old depot yard filled every Saturday with children reading to dogs, foster families picking up supplies, volunteers repairing crates, and Scout inspecting every bus, van, and storage closet before anyone else entered. No one complained. On the first anniversary of the rescue, they held a small event at Scout House. Owen argued against speeches. Everyone ignored him. Sheriff Ortiz spoke about listening sooner. Miriam spoke about children not having to earn safety by surviving danger first. Maya read a short piece she had written. Eli stood beside her, one hand on Scout's back. Maya's voice shook at first, then strengthened. Scout did not ask if we had paperwork. She did not ask if we were easy to place. She did not ask if abandoned dogs were worth feeding or runaway kids were worth finding. She just kept opening doors with her paws until somebody with hands finally helped. Owen looked down. Scout leaned against his leg. Then Eli added his own line. She is bossy but mostly correct. Everyone laughed. Scout wagged once, accepting the review. Owen did not plan to speak, but Maya looked at him. Eli looked at him. Sheriff Ortiz looked far too pleased, so he stood. I used to hate waiting, he said. That was the hardest part after retirement, waiting for calls, waiting for repairs, waiting for offices to open, waiting for people to do what seemed obvious. I thought patience meant doing nothing. He looked toward the old bus seat near the wall. Scout taught me patience is not doing nothing. Patience is staying at the door until someone hears the crying inside. It is scratching until your paw bleeds if that is what it takes. It is not leaving just because help is slow. The room became quiet. Owen placed one hand on Scout's head. I opened the bus door, that is all. She refused to leave it. That was all he said. It was enough. That evening after everyone left, Owen stayed behind to lock Scout house. The yard was quiet. The old bus was gone now, finally removed, but the space where it had sat remained marked by gravel a different shade than the rest of the lot. Scout walked to that spot and sat. Owen stood beside her. For a while neither moved. You remember? The German shepherd looked at the ground. Yeah. He sat beside her in the gravel, not caring that his jeans got dusty. A year ago, the depot had been a place people ignored. Now it held food, blankets, leashes, books, spare coats, emergency numbers, and a sign on the wall that read, "If a dog won't leave, ask WHY." Owen liked that sign. It was good advice for more than dogs. At home that night, Eli fell asleep on the couch with Button tucked under his arm. Maya did homework at the kitchen table with Pocket at her feet. Scout lay in the hallway where she could see everyone. Owen stood at the sink washing dishes. A normal sound, water running, plates clinking, children breathing in the next room, a dog sighing near the door. There had been a time when normal felt like exile. Now it felt like something he had been rescued into slowly, one open door at a time. Maya looked up from her notebook. Owen, yeah. Do you think Scout chose the bus because it was yellow? What? Like people notice yellow. He thought about the faded bus, the locked door, the dog standing in front of it until someone finally stopped. Maybe. Eli opened one eye from the couch. Scout likes drama. Scout lifted her head. Owen dried a plate. She likes results. That settled it. A German shepherd refused to leave an empty school bus, and at first it looked like stubbornness. A stray dog guarding a locked door, a nuisance in an abandoned yard, a problem someone would eventually remove. But Scout was never the problem. She was the alarm. Inside that bus was a frightened child. Inside that depot were hidden animals, a missing girl, and proof that too many warnings had been ignored. Scout did not have a badge, she did not have a key, she did not have authority. She had loyalty, she had memory. She had the courage to stand between danger and the ones she loved until someone finally understood. Because of her, Eli was found, Maya was found, Button, Pocket, Old Me, the puppies, and the kittens were rescued. A corrupt man was exposed. A forgotten depot became Scout House. And Owen Riker learned that patience is not weakness. Patience is staying where love tells you to stay, even when help is late. Even when your paws are bleeding, even when the door stays closed longer than it should. He had thought his purpose ended when the missions ended. But Scout showed him a different kind of mission. Open the locked door, listen for the quiet cry, believe the dog, stay after the rescue, build a place where no child or animal has to hide to be safe. So if this story touched your heart, share it with someone who has ever felt ignored, abandoned, or left behind a closed door. Sometimes rescue begins with someone who refuses to walk away. Sometimes God sends that someone with 4 paws, tired eyes, and a bark loud enough to wake the sleeping parts of a town. Tell us in the comments, has a dog ever refused to leave your side when you needed help most? Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, rescue, faith, and second chances. Until the next story, may God bless you, guard your home, and give you the courage to open the door when love is waiting on the other side.